Making white wine in Bordeaux is not as difficult as making red wine because the competition is much more stronger on the red than on the white in this region. Doesn't mean that we don't take care of our white, of course, we do. And Fabien, which started here as a man from the vines, he was the chef de culture, it means heading the cultivation. He's now general manager, and it means that he has grown all the levels. So he's entitled to answer all the questions because he knows about the quality that we're making here. And now, Fabien, I want you to teach and to explain how we will organize this wine tasting and masterclass.
Okay, thank you. First, I'm very happy to welcome you at Smith-Haut-Lafitte. It's a very big honor for me to welcome you and to show you the wine, a part of the wine of Smith-Haut-Lafitte. And as Daniel said, we are white and red, and today we will be focused on the red wine. And Bordeaux is a very special place in the world for making wine because of the weather. It's a medium weather with more or less energy, more or less rain. So it gives to the wine the balance of the wine, which is, for me, the special touch of Bordeaux for the quality of the wine, the balance in the wine. So today we are following different vintages with different weather conditions to show the impact of the weather in the wine brewing, in the wine making. And so after that, you could have the feeling of the weather through the wines. So we will begin with the small vintage of the series, which is 07. I put on your table a small data sheet. The first tab is what I call the quantity of solar energy. So it means it's an indicator of the warmness of the year. So more the number is high, more the weather was hot during the year. Because for the vines growing, we can cut the year in three parts. One part is winter sleeping. The second part is the growing of the vines. So it means the burning of the leaves, the growing of the branches, of the shoots. And so it's the green part. And after, we have the last part, which is quite the most important for the quality of the wine, is the ripening time, when the berry begin to change the color and go to the harvest date, harvest time. The second tab is the quantity of water, of the waterfall. So you can see the same thing as the first tab with the year and the different months of the year with the quantity of water. So of course it's very important for the vines growing because the vines need water to grow, to build their leaves and their shoot. And after, of course, we don't want to have too many water during the ripening time. So first we begin with 07. So 07 is, in the mind of people, and perhaps especially in US, a very poor vintage. Because the weather condition was not great, and we can see we have less energy, quite a big quantity of water, but we try to find more ripeness, waiting to have more day for the ripening time. So in this kind of vintage, we have not very lovely weather condition, but we can play with the timing of ripeness, picking late. So the noise is very open, very expressive, very easy to approach. So we have a good expression, we have a lovely complexity. We have some fruits, but it's more on the jammy touch with a certain evolution. We are beginning to have some bouquet evolution because the wine is now 10, 11 years old, so it's not a baby. We have a good evolution. And you can notice that in the mouth, the beginning of the mouth is quite soft. And after, in the middle of the mouth, it's not very dense. It's a medium body, but the sweetness is okay, and the lunch is okay too. So it's not a wine, it's not an incredible dense wine, or it's not a mouth wine. It's a wine really on the balance, on the freshness, not very dense, not very concentrated, but very balanced and very elegant with many complexity. So it means that in this kind of vintage, with difficult weather condition, with not a perfect ripeness, we can make interesting wine. We cannot make very powerful wine because we have not the density in the grapes, we have not the full ripeness of the tannin. So if we tried to extract much tannin in this year, we We could have today a very dry wine with bitterness. And we didn't want to do that. We try to save the balance of the vintage. Even if we extract a bit less, we have less density, but more balance and more freshness. So now we put to you the 11 vintage. So 11, as you can notice on the data sheet, is a very dry vintage. It was not very hot too. It's quite cool, in fact. It's a bit surprising, but it's cool and very dry. You have a very big drought during all the summer. So it gives at the end a very early crop. We pick in September all the red grapes. So we have a very good level of ripeness for the tannin of this wine. But the other effect of the drought that it means that we have very small berries, especially for the Cabernet Sauvignon, very, very small berries. For the Merlot, we have bigger berries. So it's for that the blend change quite strongly for this vintage. We have less Cabernet as we can imagine depending on the weather condition, because the berry of the Cabernet was very small. Of course, when you have more skin and less juice, you will have more concentration in the wine because you have less liquid and more dense, more matière, more skin, in fact. So the extraction gives us a big quantity of tannin for this vintage. You have more concentration compared to 07, right, but a bit less compared to the great vintages. So we are in a medium position. And if you compare, you will compare the different wine, and you will see the difference between a soft tannin of 09 of 15 compared to the more straight tannin of 11. With 9, the tannin was every time round and soft. Even if we were in maceration, even if we are in the aging of the wine, the tannin were soft and round and very easy to approach. 11, it was more straight and more difficult to taste at the beginning. But with time, with the evolution of the wine in the bottle, the shape of the tannin move a bit and become more approachable today. And will be better in 2 or 3 years too. So the time can help us after that. But the time, the aging, cannot give you more tannin or more density. The weather condition and the extraction of the vintage give you the body of the wine, so the concentration of the tannin. And the ripeness of the tannin gives you the shape. So I went every evening in the vineyard tasting berries to find the level of ripeness of the tannin. I can do an analysis for the sugar, for the acidity, but for the ripeness of tannin, I cannot do that. So I work in the vines and taste berries very quickly to try to find, to have a global impression of the level of ripeness of the tannin.
Is even tasting the seeds and the skin. You have to crack the seeds under your teeth and to feel if it's okay, if there is no harsh tannins inside. This is how we do it.
The two things is to appreciate the quality of the tannin from the skin. So I chew the skin to extract the tannin and to have the feeling of the tannin in my mouth. And I look for the seeds. If the seeds are green or brown, of course it's better when they are brown because they are ripe, and the tannin of the seeds are very good when they are ripe. When they are green, we have to take care of that and try to let the tannin in the seeds and not to put it in the wine.
Is that what happened in 2007?
Exactly. So for that, we have to adapt the way of the winemaking. In 07, we did less punching down, less remontage, with lower temperature, because I want to extract the tannin from the skin, but not for the peps.
Every year is a new story, which makes the job very interesting, of course. But sometimes it's really difficult.
As a wine matures, tannins tend to integrate into the wine. The flavor of the tannins tends to become more of a part of the wine, and the fruit tends to develop secondary characteristics. When you have a wine like 11, where the tannins are straighter, not as round, will they tend not to integrate as well over time? Will they tend to stand out more over time, as opposed to, like a 2009, where you had very round and light tannins? And
in fact, you always have an evolution with the time. After 10 years, the wine is not the same as at the beginning when I put it in bottle. So you have an evolution of the tannin, but we couldn't have a ripening of the tannin in the bottle. So the tannin change a bit, but they cannot come. You couldn't have at the beginning harsh tannin and to have soft tannin at the end after 10 years in bottle. You have a transformation, you have an evolution, of course, but you couldn't change completely the shape of the tannin. With 09, it was round at the beginning, it stayed round and will stay round all his life. For 11, it's a bit straight at the beginning, but they're not unripe, so they can evolve and find more balance after 10 years, after 8 years, I don't know exactly.
I think they are more melting than changing, you know,
Yeah.
with
Definitely.
time. They melt with the other aromas, but they don't change, really.
So now we are going with a pair, with two wines in the same time, because it's, for me, the two brothers. Not the two twins, but the two brothers. And you can notice, I come back on my tab, that some things are quite similar, especially the quantity of water fall during the ripening time, 65 to 60 millimeters. The difference is very small. So it's the quantity of water during the two harvest time, the two ripening time were the same, but the difference of these two vintages are the warmness of the vintage. Sorry. You can notice during the ripeness time of the two vintage, in 09 we have a bit more than 600, and for 2010 we are just 550. So it means a difference of 10% of energy. Vintage 2010 was a bit cooler than 2009. So we need to find quite the same level of ripeness. We need more time. We need more day of ripening. So we pick later, especially the Cabernet Sauvignon, because they need more time to feel the same level of ripeness.
2009 was very special year. The fruit was delicious. The first juice we have was amazing, and the wine even very young. The first days tastes very good. It's an amazing year.
The strong idea of this one is to be able to be drink very early and very easily. It was very easy to approach, in fact. So it means for me that the tannin was totally ripe and perfectly ripe, and so the shape of them was very round and very easy to approach, even if they are very young, in fact. So it means it was something very important for me, because it means that in a wine, if you have the very good weather condition, you could have a very ripe tannin, and you could put and you can put them in the wine, and so have a very big quantity of tannin, but with a very lovely shape. So it means that you can give to the wine lover, to the wine consumer, the choice of the timing to drink the wine. On night, you like it young, you can drink it young, and you can wait a long time because you have a big quantity of tannin, and you can taste it or drink it in 10 years, in 20 years, you have no limit, in fact. 09 is a wonderful wine, but when he was young, now it changed a bit, but when he was young, it was not a Bordeaux wine. It was a bit more exotic. Even if it stayed in the balance of the Bordeaux style wine, but it was a bit more exuberant, a bit more exotic. It was not really in the classic Bordeaux style. 2010 was more in the style, because we can see on the figures that the level of energy, the warmness of the vintage was a bit lower compared to 09. So we have more acidity and we have more balance in the wine. When I taste the grapes of 2010 in the vineyard, I have more fresh fruits. Before we speak about the red and black fruit, but very, very ripe. For 10, we have more on the freshness, more on the fresh fruits when you are crunching in a strawberry or in raspberry. So it was different style of fruits, and after, the quantity of tannin is the same, but the shape of the tannin are not totally the same too. They are quite soft, but a bit more structured, in fact. A bit more, not straight, very round tannin. Full tannin, but a bit more like that. So more density, more firm, it's a bit more firm in French, but not arch. And so it gives to the wine perhaps more length, more style, with the length. 09 is like that, was like that, and 10 was like that. Shape of the wine are very different because of the balance of the wine, because of the shape of the tannin. But after that, you can notice that the blend is exactly the same, and I can add now that the quantity of tannin was exactly the same at the beginning. the quantity of gram per liters of tannin are the same.
It's clear that I'm going to have to drink a lot more wine to understand the shape of the tannins, but I appreciate it.
You have to come for in September and October, and we will take some juice, some grapes, and some lot, and so I can show you the shape.
In 2015, we make a special label and black and golden because it was our 25th anniversary of buying this estate here. And also because they have been making wine here till 650 years. 650 years, a lot. So we thought we have to commemorate that. And we make this beautiful new label, which is slightly different from the usual one. And you know, the people who work in the luxury product, they say, wow, you should stay with this label because it's worth maybe $30 more than the other one, just because of the label. And we were very anxious about that. We say, if maybe it's true, but finally we got back to our roots, you know, the DNA, which is yellow and black. So this was just about marketing. Speak about the real thing, the quality.
I will speak about the last wine of the tasting tonight, 15 vintage. So you can notice on the figures that it was, for the energy, for the solar energy, it was in the middle position between 9 and 10. For the water fall in the ripening time a bit higher, but it was not a problem because the months before was very dry. So the soil kept the water and you have no effect on the vines. Because, just to explain a small bracket, if you have rain or too much rain just in the end of August, beginning of September, the vines can drink too much water and put the water in the berries, and the berries could increase and could be open by the increasing of the size. So it could give us many damage. So the water during the harvest.
The skin is very thin, and it can break the skin because it drinks too much. So the skin is not supple, and so it breaks, and after the disease are coming, rotting is coming. So it can be a disaster very quickly.
Yeah, so too much water during this time, it's not a good thing. And so we don't like to have water in September, beginning of September. I like it because you have a good body, a good concentration, very close to 9 and 10, a very soft texture of the tannin, but a bit more balanced to 9. So it's really a medium position between the two brothers. And I like the texture of the tannin, the velvet touch of the tannin. And after the balance, and all the things are quite done. In fact, the body is dense, and you have a very lovely wine. It's of course younger, so you have less complexity compared to 9 and 10, because he's very young, so he will improve its complexity. But today, the shape of the wine is very lovely. I like it very much.
In the grape, it's not the juice which is important. It's the skin and the seeds. And if you want to have a perfect ripeness, that's why it's chewing always. We don't care about the level of alcohol. We used to have not enough, and now we have quite too much, you know. But so it's not our obsession. Our obsession is to have ripe tannins as well in the skin as in the seeds. So that's why we have to chew, because no other things can tell us which is the right time to pick. So thank you for coming.